Okay, in this video we're looking at the modular plant design and P&ID in Solid Edge. So here we've got Solid Edge where we want to go and run a pipe and a component. So if we jump into our P&ID tool, we can see we've got that. We've got the tank at the top, those two tanks, and we want to go and put a little boost pump going in here. So P&ID tool, we've got different options: auto command, pipe, symbols, text, shapes, edit. Depending on what we do here, this little bar, this bar underneath changes depending on what we select on here. As we right click, that allows us to start drawing, end drawing line. Reasonably simple. So a lot of commands here are just data, reference, diagnostics and stuff. So for this one, we've got symbol menu or component database. So we've got the symbol menu with just basic symbols, and component database that gives us components that are kind of linked into the pipe specification. So just a little bit of kind of information. So I'll go down here. If we go down to our pipe specification editor, this is the tool that links everything together. So if I go down and choose one of these specifications on here, that's then going to go and load everything that has been applied here. So if I just make this a little bit bigger so we can fully see what we've got on here. So we've got our pipe, we've got our diameter types. So obviously we can go and filter these. We can see where these are. So if they're in standard parts, or are they in part finder, or are they on the file. So when we go and bring these in, we can decide where they are. So if we're not using standard parts, we can still use this. And then we've got our category. So that's the category within standard parts, the part name and the file name. So those two are to do, the part name and the category are to do with standard parts. The file name is just the normal file name on there. And then the most important thing is this column at the end. So if this isn't on, we have to go into settings and go and turn this P&ID on. So this number on here, this component ID, allows us to link these parts together. So if I've got a butterfly valve and I go and apply this to the P&ID, that means that my software should automatically know that is that part. So if I've got that in the 3D, I can go assign to that and it will go, yep, good, green tick, etc. So let's jump back into the P&ID. So I'm going to go, no, I don't want to save that. So we're going to put a couple of parts in on here. So when we go in here, we can search all sorts of different options on here. So if I go and search for a pump, that's going to go and find the pump. So we haven't got a huge amount on here. So click that, click OK, and then go and paste the pump. You can use a spacebar to spin the direction of pump on there. Place that. It's then going to ask me for the component data. So I'm going to follow the same. So you can see we've got PL230, V for valves, PL pipeline, pump 2003. So I'm going to call this pump, let's go 3000 because it looks like there are thousands on there. We can look at the information that's going to show next to it. So this is going to be the tag that shows next to it. We can see all sorts of information. So what are the data do I want to show by that? So we can go and show this data. But the pump, we don't really need anything apart from just that data on there. So if I click OK, that has then placed the pump. If I right click and choose end symbol or escape, that will go and end that on there. This information can be dragged around, so I can go and use this to tidy it up. And while that's highlighted, I can spacebar that if I need to go and rotate that round. So that all the tags follow that same kind of process on there. We can also go and kind of change options as well. So if that scale is too big, we can go and change that down. So that came in at scale 2, which isn't default, just a setting I had previously. So next we can look at creating pipelines, lines. So if we choose lines, we can go and choose all the different styles that we want on there. So if I want to show one with if we want to show insulation, we can show insulation as well once we've created that, and we can have arrows on the lines if we want to have an arrow option. We then go and place the lines, so we can go and if I just go, make sure I'm actually on lines, and go draw a line, start the line there, choose where the line is going to go to, and then where the line is going to finish, and then end that line. If I then go back to my settings on there, if I double click on that line, we can see the line article data. So we had component data for that one. So if we go PL300, so that's our pipeline on there. We've got our line data fields, what we're going to show. So we can go and turn off any elements that we don't. But this one, we need to look at the specification. So that specification we looked at earlier, we need to go and say, well, this pipe is following that specification. And that's going to be DM100 because the pump that we did is 100 and the connection coming off this component is also 100. So we're all good on there. Check our line data field. If we don't want to show our tag, we can go and turn that off. If I want to go and move this, I can do this the same way. So sorry, I've just got the checker on there. So if I make sure I go to the auto command change, I click on there, I can go move that, spacebar that, and go and put that there, just so it's a little bit neater on there for us. Okay, so next we want to go and put a valve in. So I'm going to go back to my symbols, going to go back to my database, clear my search options on here, and let's go search for a valve. So this time I know it needs to be DN100, so I'm going to use the filter on there, click that, and then go and scroll and find my 100 valves on there. So I know this needs to be a globe valve. So if I go and find the appropriate valve on there, we've got all sorts of different ones it could be, just needs to be 100. Just double checking that that's the one that I want that to be. That looks good. Click OK. Again, I can go and spin that round. I'm going to go and drop that scale down to 1 as well. And then I'm going to go and place the valve there. And that's going to allow me to go and do that. So I want that to be GV300 because that's my valve. That's my article number. I've got my visible. What else have we got on here? We've got inner equipment because it's attached to that. And click OK on that. And then right click and end that symbol. So we're looking good now. Okay, so what we need to do is have a look at our bombs now. So this is sheet 2, so that's going to be bomb 2. So if we go to bomb 2, we can see that our valve and our pump have both been added. If they don't get updated, we can go and update the list, and that will go and update that. But we can see that has got the 121099, the article that we're just looking at on there. So remember, we can always double click back on there and just go and double check that those are the correct numbers that we've just been checking on there. So that's all good. So if I save that, it's going to go and save that data. The good thing about this as well, if we save as a PDF, it actually creates intelligent bombs. So you're able to click on that part, and it will take you to the appropriate part on here as well. So it's quite a nice option, and we've got quite nice templates for what pages we're going to create on there. So if I close out of there and we go to Solid Edge, so this is Solid Edge 2022. We find this came out in 2019, 2020 we had kind of external pop-up boxes, but now it's all integrated within Solid Edge. So one thing that I always get questions of is what do I do about these, because you've got all these tags on here and we probably don't want those all the time. So we can go to our Piping Design Administrator, we go down to the normal install location, and then within Plant Design Toolbars, we can go and decide what toolbars we want. So we can go and say what toolbars are on there. With Solid Edge open, it's not going to allow us to update that, but you're about to go and turn those on and off, so you're not seeing these extra 4 toolbars in here. So we've got our different sections. We've got our Solid Edge Piping Design. We've got our P&ID to-do list. So first thing we need to do is go and turn on Piping Design by clicking Run Piping. That's going to go and start it. We can see the screen flashing slightly and all the symbols suddenly appear. If we go to our P&ID to-do list, we can't turn that on and open the to-do list until the Piping Design is running. So that's going to allow me to go into there. And that's then going to go and check the assembly structure. So now I'm just going to open my piping up and pin that. And I'm going to go and find my to-do list on this side. And we're going to go and pin that as well. So we can see that we've got items of different colours. So we've got red items where we've got errors. So those parts have been deleted or something. The green items, all good. So we've got our piping, we've got our components, and then we've got our other kind of items on there. So we can see the 3 items that we've added. We've added our pump, our pipeline, and our globe valve on there. So what we can do on here now is go and assign these items. So first thing you need to do is double check that your appropriate system is set up properly. So I'm just going to check my standard parts is running okay. So I'm going to go to my database administrator and just double check that we've got the correct standard parts. So for me, in my database manager, you can see I've got different databases. So I'm just making sure that I've got the P&ID one. I've got a few other databases on there. To change database, click on that and click working database, and that becomes the same one. So sometimes you might want a specific one for when you're working on piping and a specific one for fasteners, just to make everything easier and nicer. So for me, I'm going to make sure that one is on there. I don't need to click update because it's all working okay. What I find is quite nice at this point as well, if you go to your parts library and click on your standard parts, that will go and start that running, so it doesn't have to turn on. And you'll if you got your bar on the bottom, you'll see that flash up. It can take 10 seconds or so the first time, and then we can just keep that minimized, but that saves us having to go and start that again. So now we need to go and assign this pump. So if we click on the pump and right click, or we can see we've got the options up here as well, the same as our right click menu. This is pretty much exactly the same on there. So if I go place 3D model to CAD, so it says there's no fitting, so the number that we've got doesn't match on here, but it will for the valve. So this will then allow me to go and browse for this within the standard parts. So if I go to the standard parts and go and find that, it's actually found the pump already, so there's no issue there, and I can go and place that. Okay, let's just double check that that's done that. Select. Okay, and that's got that in place for me. It's actually brought it in twice, so I'm just going to I'll get rid of the first one in a minute. This has got capture fit on, so if we haven't met that, it's a capture fit option that allows us to go and select the relationship quickly. So I know I need to do the face. I need to choose this hole as the axis, and then I need a face to align it to. So I'm just going to choose the front face of that beam. That has got our pump in the correct position. Just going to go and remove this pump because we brought that in twice. So next, we need to think about doing our pipeline. So I'm just going to do a quick save on there. So that item's green, so that's all good. So next is our pipeline. So if we go on there, we've got all sorts of different stuff we can do. It will prompt us to make sure that everything kind of works okay. So we've got options where we can do show from and to points. So now we've got 2 red dots recognizing, well, that's where it's come from and that's where it's going to. So that can make life a little bit easier. I'm going to go and hide those again. And we can also go and assign pipeline, create route, or create subassembly in CAD. So for this one, I want to create a subassembly. You can see we've got all these different items with different subassemblies. So if I create subassembly in CAD, that's going to go through and create that as a subassembly. So just wait for that to run through on there. So if we've got data management, it will run automatically, and it will kind of create it based on the name. So that's PL300, my item number there, and my CW plant on there. If you've got Team Center running, that will prompt you to create a document ID for that number in the using the standard pop-up dialog box that we get on there. So now we've got that open, I'm going to go and edit in place on there. So we need to do edit in place because we need references to go and link the pipeline to the input and output locations on there. Okay, so you will find it will prompt us to do the create subassembly. So we need to assign a pipeline, but first we actually need a route. So I'm going to click on create route. So it's asking me what to do on the assembly. We've actually done that manually, so we don't need to do that. That's just a personal preference doing that manually. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to get our kind of options on here. So it uses the 3D sketch, but we don't actually need to use a 3D sketch. We use auto route or manual route. This is pretty much, so auto route is like going to routing path, and manual route kind of goes into the line on there. So for this one, I'm going to do a auto route. Once we clicked on that, it's going to ask for the information that we want. So we want our spec 1000 is our size on there, and these are the parts that we're possibly going to use. Other options on there as well, but not going to worry about those for this. Click OK. And now we're in our path command. So even though we are in the 3D sketch command, it kind of stays within the solid edge piping design on here. So for this, I want a port segment length of about 650. And then I'm going to go and choose the element that we want on here. So I'm going to go and hover over here. Finding a view where it's easier is good on there. If you've got a 3D mouse, it makes life a lot easier because it means I can spin round and find the appropriate edge for me to connect to on there. Once done that, I'm just going to go and spin that back around. We get 4 different options for our routing paths, up to 4. So we can go and have a look through the options. So there's 3 on there. So I'm going to go and choose that one because it allows us a nice option on there. Just going to double check we've got no clash. So while we're spinning around, while we're looking at that, we can check that that's okay. If we did want these to be orientated in different orientation, so we want them at 45° angles, we can create a different coordinate system using the appropriate coordinate system command in here. So accept that, and that's going to go and create our kind of pipe route on there, and then we can go and generate our pipeline paths. So that is now going to allow that to go and look at the standard parts and decide what we want on there. So that has created our path. We can then use that to go and generate our pipelines. We're actually still in sketch mode, so it won't let me do that. So if I exit sketch mode, because we've already started that, that's now going to do that automatically because I've already told it what to do. So if we come out of there and click our assign pipeline to that path, and let's just double check that that's okay. So everything's set. And let's just click recalculate, and that's then going to read the data from what we've got. So all these parts have got a input and output location. So you can see we've got our flange, our elbows, kind of like medium on there, and then we've also got our gaskets on there. We've got our gaps, which are also set in the specification as well. The item that we drew on there, the little path on there, has automatically had the occurrence properties set. So that is just a guide item. So if I go into the occurrence properties on there, you can see that that item on there has got our draft reference reports. That item doesn't actually exist. It looks, but it's got no along there. So it just means so you don't have to go and worry about that. That is just a guide for everything to kind of relate to, for instance, on there. Okay, so we've done that, but we've done our path without putting our gate valve on. So what we need to do is go and think about creating our gate valve. I actually want the gate valve to be kind of in this assembly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and place that 3D model to CAD the same way we did the other one. So that's then going to go and prompt us. So if we go into our valves, and we've got our globe valve, not gate valve. Why did I say globe? Or was it a butterfly? Which one should we do? Let's do a globe valve. 100. That looks correct. Select that. Again, that has got some kind of mate on there as well. So it's kind of easier if we just turn that off. I find that kind of nicer, so we can get that. So we can get that first relationship on there. So that's my my first mate relationship. My second one is going to be this cylinder on there, and I need something for that to kind of be parallel to. So notice all these options, or if I press Shift and click on there, that's going to allow that to create that relationship on there. But now we'll see that our pipeline is actually going straight through there. So we can now go and use the option on here to go and recalculate the pipeline, and that is then going to calculate that pipeline based on that valve being in position on there. So we might have a certain issue with a bit of overlap because we've added that valve, so we can just go and delete that. That's not a problem, and we can just double check that's okay by rerunning that recalculate pipeline on there. And hopefully we're not going to get the error at the end this time. So we've still got some kind of overlap. So let's have a look, see what we've got on there. So it doesn't like that valve. So I probably need to go and change something on there, but for this demo I'm not too worried because I know that is now correct on there. So I can now save, and I've got that ready to go into the draft, and we've now got full green on everything apart from the intended errors that we've got on there. So if I close out of that, we can see that is all ready to go, and we can then go and take that into our appropriate isometric tool and go and create industry standard isometric views on there. That's the end of the demo. Hopefully you find that useful. Live, no cuts. Hopefully that's good. Thank you very much.